Hello people, my name is Jan and I love making fancy maps. Today I will show you how to make cool shapes to define your land masses for your fantasy world maps using Photoshop and especially the Treshhold and cloud filter. Let's get started. Alright, first we're going to make a new file. And you want to make your file the size that your map is going to be in the end. I've got certain dimensions that I want to use. So I'm going to type in, let's go for pixels. And I'm going to go for this exact size. And this size can be whatever you plan your map to be in the end. My map is mostly going to be used for screen, so I'm going to go for 72 pixels per inch. If you want to print, it's better to use a higher resolution, 240 pixels per inch or 300 pixels per inch. And I'm going to go for RGB, and the background I want to be black. Alright, I'm going to make sure that I save this file twice, so I get two separate files. First, I'm going to call it this one is shapes. This is where I will play with my shapes. And the second one will be the file that I will put my thumbnails in and my final map. Alright, so I'm gonna open the shapes and the thumbnails. We're gonna use the cloud filter to create all kinds of cool shapes that look and feel organic when we make our fantasy world map. So I will make a new layer. Go to Filter, Render, Clouds. And if you ever use Photoshop, I want to make sure that my colors are set to black and white and not mid-gray and white, because then the clouds will be defined with black and white instead of this medium gray color. So here we go. And if you ever played around with Photoshop, you probably know this cloud filter. It has many uses. One of the things I like to use it for is the fact that it is generated quite randomly. The next thing that we want to do is we want to go to this adjustment layer, which is a layer that we'll put over top, and we will go for the threshold, which will turn all the shades of the cloud filter into only two colors, only the black and white. So it will find the line where it will divide the black and white, and you can already see that we're getting these interesting shapes that could be seen as land masses in your final file, but we're not there yet. A couple of things that you can do is you can play around with this slider, so you get these tiny islands, or what you can do is put another layer on top of this cloud filter, so let's call it shapes 1. I will press Ctrl J or Command J to copy this layer and call this shapes 2, and then I will render clouds again. This will just be different clouds, but to combine both the first layer and the second layer, I will use the blending mode multiply, and now you get these tiny islands. So either use the threshold slider over here to create these tiny islands, or create multiple layers using the multiply blending mode. Both work fine. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to find the shapes that I think... Oh, space sounds. Why does it make the space sound? It shouldn't. That's weird. Sorry guys for the bling bling. I mean, it shouldn't use the space sound. Alright. Anyway, yeah, it still does. Okay, that's gonna be annoying. Yeah, we're gonna continue. Let's see. I'm gonna grab this shape because I think it looks interesting, and I'm gonna go copy it. But I'm gonna copy merge, because if I just copy this without copying merged, you will get the cloud layer, like with the cloud information instead of the black and white layer information. So we will go copy merged, or as you can see, the shortcut is Ctrl Shift C, and we will paste that in our thumbnail file. I have the tendency to press Ctrl S every now and then. It's almost automatic just because it saves the file. And for me, this is what I mean when you use multiple layers. You can just slide around this first layer to create a whole different shape. But this shape is interesting to me, so I'm going to press Ctrl Shift C to copy merge, paste it into this file, place it up here, and I'm going to keep doing that until I have a bunch of shapes that I find organic and interesting, and then I'm going to combine them into cool thumbnails. So I'm going to do this until I have about, let's say, 20 little shapes, and then I will start making thumbnails that will show the first selection of what my fantasy world might be. Paste another one. I like this one over here. And what I'm looking for is a bit hard to say. Just things that feel organic. Oh, sorry, I live in a small town, and the beeping you're hearing in the background is actually one of those supermarket trucks. So there's this, in this town, there's this driving supermarket truck, and it decides to come right now while I'm making videos. So first we have the blinking of the spacebar, and then we have the beeping of the truck. Very nice. So what I just did is I pressed the cloud filter again, so it would generate new random clouds. So I get some new random shapes to play around with. So copy, merge, paste it in my file. And yeah, whenever I see something that looks organic, that might be a real country, maybe something that looks a little bit eroded, or like something that I wouldn't necessarily be able to draw real quickly in the top of my mind, I feel for world maps it's really good to use something that randomizes it. I know that WASD20, he has a video where he uses beans or some kind, which is also really cool. He just places a bunch of beans and he puts them on the table to create these random shapes. And I like that idea, to use some randomization for your fantasy maps. So I keep going like this, create some new clouds in the top layer and some new ones in the bottom. I like this little shape over here. Yeah, just I've been watching a lot of training videos lately, and I know that concept artists or landscape artists or whoever works in like a concept industry, they usually make a bunch of thumbnails that they show to their client before they start working on their more finalized piece. And I really like that idea, and I want to implement this in my map making techniques as well, because it's really helpful. And sometimes it's really easy just to go for the first thing that you make, well, something that if you make multiple versions of it, another version might be better. And this is the super basic state where you didn't put in a lot of work yet, so this is the time to experiment with that instead of choosing a finalized version right away. Alright, just a few more. I'm gonna render clouds again. Because I had a selection, it only did it to the area where I had the selection, so I had to press Ctrl D to deselect, and there we go again. You can use shortcuts. For example, L is the Lasso tool, which is using shortcuts and getting used to shortcuts really helps with your Photoshop progression. So I suggest if you use Photoshop daily, to try to learn a new shortcut daily, because it will make your life so much easier in the end, in the long run. Some of the times I even forget that I'm using shortcuts. So the Lasso tool is L. Ctrl C, Ctrl Shift C to copy, Ctrl V to paste, and so on and so on. Alright, I'm gonna render clouds once again to get some more shapes. And I press Ctrl S every now and then just to save my file. Oh, there you go. And what we also might try, so, oh, this is a thing that I pasted. What we also might try, like at this moment, if we wouldn't show the threshold filter, this is how the cloud layer looks like. And what we can also do is try, let's invert it. And then put this one again, and this layer on multiply. Let's see what happens then. And there's also, I think, we can get some more sharp shapes. I'm not 100% sure, but if we use difference clouds, and we look like this, and we press multiply, and play around with these sliders. It might really give some interesting effects. I'm gonna difference cloud it again. Yeah, so here we get some more, like, I'm not sure if I pronounce this correctly, but archipelago, like chains of islands, which could be really cool for your maps. So play around with the cloud filter, the difference clouds filter, inverting the layers that you have, and so on and so on, to create interesting shapes. That's what we want, randomized, interesting shapes. I feel like the shapes I have now are a little bit bigger than the ones I had before, which is okay. Maybe they're more like the big main continent areas. Just whatever I find to look interesting. Maybe this one. Copy it. Oh. Use Shift to add to the selection. So if you made a selection and you see that you miss a spot, you can use Shift to add to the selection, and I think Alt, let me check. Yeah, Alt to subtract from the selection. So you don't have to make a whole new selection if you see that you did something wrong. You can tweak the selection. Just a few more. And another thing that you can do is rotate one of the layers, just to see if you get some more interesting shapes. Right, I want 4 more. I like this big horizontally stretched one. Ctrl Shift C to copy. I like this one. Oh, because I'm moving the layer by accident, the whole thing shifts around. But that's why you have undo. Right, this one, and let's get one more. I like this one over here. All right, We can close this one, save it just in case. And now we'll continue with the thumbnail layer. One thing that we have to do here is we have to put all these layers on a different blending mode. Because what will happen if we move around these layers is that the selection area that we created, it's better to see with the background turned off, will also overlap the area where you want the layers to blend. So what you can do is you can put all these layers, you can select them by using Shift, then you select them all and we turn them to lighten, and it will only overlap the light parts, and the dark parts won't overlap. Let's see if I can describe that a bit more clearly. So you can see now they can kind of blend into each other. So what you do when you do multiply is only the black, the darks will get pushed through on the other layer. If you use lighten, only the light parts will be pushed through to the other layer. So this blending mode is quite interesting. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna use the Ctrl key to select our landmasses. What you can see if I press the Ctrl, you can see that the auto select key will be automatically turned on. You can also turn it on and then it will automatically do the same thing. Normally when you click like a landmass, it will only move the layer that you're in and select it here. But if you use the auto select function, it will select the area that has contents, the layer that has contents. So I can move this one or this one or this one, which makes it a bit more easier. But if you only want to work in a certain layer, it's annoying if you select the wrong layer because you've got auto select on. So I usually have auto select off when I'm drawing, but you can like temporarily turn it on by pressing the Control key, or I guess the Command key on the Mac. We're gonna work on our first thumbnail. So I'm gonna grab this one, and this is almost like North and South America. So one of the things that you don't want to do is you don't want to create a copy of Earth. I have one video that I had a lot of comments on, people saying, dude, you just created Earth 2.0. It's like the exact distribution of the continents that the Earth has. But you also don't want to create something that's totally weird and whacked and wouldn't work in real life, so you want to find like a middle ground. It needs to feel like it can function. So this thing that kind of looks like a South America shape, maybe we can make it less South America-y by flipping it, or by flipping it vertically, like this. That already looks less like our current Earth. I kind of like this shape. I'm not sure about this little tail here. One interesting that you can do is you can also remove areas. For example, if I would want to remove areas, I would just reverse it. So I would invert this layer. So the areas that were white first were now black. And I will press multiply. It's a bit hard to see now, but if I move this layer, it retracts that area, that shape. So if I want, like, I didn't really like the top part, so I can maybe try to keep the shape, but just remove this top part a bit. Maybe like this. All right. Let's grab this guy or this guy. Let's see. For my world map that I'm currently making, I'm making sort of like a pirate story. So I do want an old world and a new world and a big ocean in between that they have to cross to get there, to get kind of like this naval feel. We've just created the letter K in landmass, and I don't like that. So maybe like this. Let's see. I do like this shape a lot. I like this. I really like this left shape. I'm not so sure about the right shape yet. So I'm gonna tear it apart. And maybe I want some inverse area again in this one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take an interesting shape like this one, image, adjust, invert, turn this layer into multiply, and I need to make sure that it's on top of all the other layers for this to work. So I have to drag this one all the way to the top, else it won't work. And now I can go like this and see if I can cut out a piece that feels a bit more natural to me. I really am enjoying this particular continent that that is starting to take shape here. Let's see. Let's bring some stuff nearby, closer to the thumbnail that I'm working on. Let's go with this. One thing that you can keep in mind is if you look at our world map, you can see that it was a Pangea once. It was like a one shape at one point and it broke apart. So it's kind of cool to create a shape where you could see it could almost fit like a little puzzle piece. So if I have these two shapes, you could see like these could kind of fit into each other. You can keep that in mind. It adds a little bit to the realism of the map. I'm not 100% sure about this. Let's flip this one. See if that helps. It does, but I don't like this top shape. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna invert one more shape, maybe even this this big shape over here. I'm gonna drag it to the tab, invert it, multiply, and drag it on top of this to see if I can create some interest here. This is quite interesting for me. It's a little bit too similar, but like a little bit too not symmetrical, but too smooth. But what I will do is I like what we have got so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this, press Ctrl Shift C, paste. So we've got a copy of this, and I'm going to tweak this one a little bit, maybe transform it a little bit. I like that. No, I don't. Let's grab this. Oh, let's grab this guy. Why can't I select it? Because I'm not in selection. Okay, grab this guy, drag it to the top. Image, adjust, invert, and multiply, and see if I can create a more interesting shape, especially on the right. This might not be too bad. Let's keep it like this. All right. I'm gonna Ctrl Shift copy and paste. There we go. And this will be our first thumbnail. I'm gonna invert this one again because I might use the same shapes in a different thumbnail. This is this one. This can go. So let's make sure we call this one thumbnail 1. And I just want to make sure that the ones I selected to multiply, I'm going to invert and put to lighten, so I can reuse the shape for a different thumbnail. lighten. That's it. So and oh, bling bling. I don't know why it keeps bling blinging on spacebar. To make clear that this is the thumbnail. To make sure to make clear that this is the thumbnail, I'm gonna make a group. Drag the thumbnail in. Call it thumbnail, not thumbnail. Thumbnail. And I also might add a little bit of a levels adjustment, so that we can more clearly see. This is not what I want. Yes, this is what I want. And I'm gonna press Alt in between these so it's only adjusted to this one. So here we've got our first world map thumbnail, and I like this to show it this way because it's a clear, more clear to me, but it's optional. All right, look at this big mess. I'm gonna save again, and then we're gonna use the same shapes to create another thumbnail. So just drag these ones around and see if I can create some interest just by combining shapes. I really like this shape as well, especially the bottom part of this shape. So So I like this shape, but because it's already consists of two shapes, it's a little bit difficult to move around because you have to move it around exact. So what you can do is you can press Ctrl and Shift to select both layers. So now you can move it around like that, which makes it a bit more easy. All right. I like it a little. But I feel there's something lacking on the left side of this map. Let's flip this one. And let's also subtract a little. So let's get an interesting shape like this and move it all the way to the top. Image, adjust, invert, and multiply. And let's see what we can do with this. Transform it, Ctrl T. All right. And I also like to use this one and drag it all the way to the top. Image, adjust, invert, multiply, and see if I can use this to subtract some interesting shape from this bottom left area. That's okay. All right, I'm gonna select this and this will be my second thumbnail. It's a little bit more square. Ctrl Shift C, and I will place it in here. one thing that I think I have to do is I might have to take this level 1 and only apply it to whatever in the content of this this map. Yeah, so that works in this folder. Oh. So there we've got a second thumbnail. And we go back, make sure our shapes are back in the same order. So remove the multiply by inverting it and turning it to lighten again instead of the multiply mode. Lighten. All right, there we go. And we're going to make a third thumbnail. Let's save. And just to get some variation in our shapes, we'll just rotate them 180 and flip them horizontally. So you've got a little bit of, because they're flipped, they feel a little bit different, and we have a little bit more of a fresh look on our landmass shapes. All right, let's see. I do like the shape to be pointed downward. Let's try this one. All right. This is looking pretty good. And then I'm gonna use another shape to cut out some of the existing shape in this current thumbnail. So I'm gonna drag this one all the way to the top. No, I don't want it in the thumbnail layer folder. All right, let's put it here. Image, adjust, invert, multiply, and shuffle it around. Oh, I need to put it one more higher. There we go. Let's see if we can cut out an interesting shape. I can scale it a little bit. I like that. I want to cut out a little bit more of these shapes. Let's grab this one. Drag it all the way to the top. And do the same thing. And then let's let it play with the existing shapes. Transform it a bit by pressing Ctrl T. All right, let's try that. I kind of like this almost snake type of land. All right, let's use this as a third thumbnail. Let's call this thumbnail 2 and the other one thumbnail 3. And let's move this one here. One thing that I would like to change is I don't like this big island, this big lake that it created. So I'm gonna take this area and remove it. But so what I do is I press backspace to remove it, but I don't want to remove it till it's black. I want to remove it till it's white. So what I do is I press X to change the background color, and then it should, wait, I'm doing it wrong. Sorry, brain fart, it didn't work. So what we do is I take the brush and we paint it in. That's what we do. And I don't mind these islands, they're okay. But maybe I get rid of these. Cleanup is usually a later phase, but for now this works. All right, I'm gonna make one more thumbnail, and then we are going to look at the thumbnails and maybe combine the thumbnails into one final landmass. But first, again, I have to invert the layers that I have put on multiply. So put it on lighten. Press Ctrl I to invert. There we go. And we're gonna make one more thumbnail. Just press Ctrl S to save, just to make sure we've got a backup. I'm gonna flip this one, and let's see. Maybe scale this one down, because this is gonna be my last thumbnail. I don't mind messing up the existing shapes that we have a little bit. I don't like that. Just drag them around till we get something that we find interesting. I do like, it's like almost like a circle, but I want to cut out a little bit on the left piece. The left piece feels much more solid than the right piece. So I'm going to select this thing, just invert and multiply, and pull it to the top of the shape list and drag it over here. Transform it a little to see if I can create an interesting cutout in this right landmass. I like that. Let's do one more. Maybe this one. Image adjust, invert, multiply, drag it to the top of the list, and so on. Transform it a bit. And then I'm gonna grab one of these shapes. Because the multiply layers are now on the top, it also covers the ones I select now. So I'm gonna move this on top so I can add a little bit better to these to this layer. And same with this one. I'll keep it this way. So I'm gonna get this, Ctrl Shift C to copy, and paste it in here. Call it thumbnail 4. Now I'm gonna get all these loose shapes that I have, and I'm gonna select them and put them in a group and call them shapes, just so I can easily turn them off for the time being. I do want to keep them just for a moment so I can make sure that I still have them if I need them for any reason. I want to grab thumbnail 4, move them to the thumbnails, and let's see what we got now. I think this is quite interesting what we've got here. Let me know which one you like best. What I usually do is I combine even shapes from this. So I'm gonna turn the levels one off, put these to lighten, and even shuffle around the contents of the thumbnails. So I really love this shape that I made in the first thumbnail. So I'm gonna go to the first thumbnail and maybe just copy it like this. and put it on lighten, so we can do the same thing that we did with the shapes. Which shapes do I really like? I kind of like this shape as well. Ctrl Shift C, paste, and lighten, and move it around to here. Do they fit well together? That's the question. Maybe I need to rotate it a little bit. I'm not sure if these two fit well together, but let's keep them separate for now. So I got this one and I got this one. Thumbnails. So I like this bottom one, not necessarily the top one. Copy, paste, move it around, put it on lighten. Get rid of this one for a second. I like the way these two combine, but it's too empty to be a final piece. So let's find something that might be interesting to add. Maybe this shape over here. Ctrl Shift C, paste, and make sure to put on lighten. I like this. Maybe I need to move around these two a little. Still, I feel something is missing. Let's see. Let's grab this little shape. Press this on lighten. Ooh, I like that. So we've got some nice land masses here. This is kind of Europe-like. I don't think the comparison is too big just yet, so that's okay. I'm gonna grab this one that we have here, and I'm gonna invert it like we did with the shape layers, and put it on multiply, just to see if I can get some interesting cutouts over here. Let's move it to the top. And you see this has a little edge. I don't know why, but we're gonna remove it. Oh, why is it got a little edge? And why does it become worse if I erase? What if I put black on top? Hey. Put it on normal for a second. Did I have feather on? No. Multiply. Hey. It's interesting that it has this little edge. Is it? Well, it's okay because we're not working on a final piece yet. We're just selecting the layers. So let's see. Kind of like it. Maybe flip it. Ooh. I like it, but I don't like all of it. So what I'm gonna do is, you could just erase pieces like this, plop, 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 plop. But that's not the best thing, because if you make a mistake, you can't get it back. So what you can do is you can press layer mask and paint in black with a, let's use a hard brush to remove bits like this, so we can add again to our landmass. Like that. This is starting to look pretty good to me. Let's add some islands. Get this one. Multiply, lighten, I mean. And maybe this one. Oh, Ctrl Shift C, not Ctrl C. And put it on lighten. Let's see. No, I don't like it. Okay, this one goes. I'm almost there, so let's grab this unit over here. Ctrl Shift C. Lighten. Where do I want it? Do I want it there? I think I might. All right. So I'm going to save once more. Copy this business. Turn off all of these. Paste it in. Paste it. Drag it to the top and scale it till it fills my screen like this. There we go. Just have to polish up this weird white lines that I seem to be having. I don't know why I have them, but they need to go. Just erasing, pressing E, and like this, and like this, and like this. And here we go, guys. This is a way to make landmasses in Photoshop using the cloud filter, the threshold, creating shapes, combining them. And I think we've got a pretty interesting start for a fantasy world map. So before you make your fantasy world map, it's good to make some variations. Give yourself some options. And think about what your end result could and should be, and this is going to be the base for a map that I'm gonna polish up and use in software called Incarnate. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned. If you've got any questions, if I forgot any shortcuts, or if I forgot to explain certain things that I was doing, please let me know. Thank you very much and see you guys. Bye bye.